Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Education meeting. We appreciate you joining us on this Monday, March 16th. Would you like to read into the record?
Ms. Molinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Bissinger? Yes. Mr. Blundo?
Here.
Mr.
Yes, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mr. Hollowell? Mr. Ralph?
Yes, I'm online.
Okay. Mr. Scher?
Present.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Steinberg?
Here.
Okay.
Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by mailing copies of said notice to the record, filing copies of said notice with municipal clerks in Hillsdale, Montvale, Rivervale, Woodcliff Lake, and publishing said notice in the record on May 21st, 2019 and March 10th, 2020. We are now moving into executive session. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, quick question. What will the public that are watching the stream see while we're in executive session?
That's a great question. They will see an empty auditorium here, and no, they will not. Mr. Zeller, what will they see?
It's going to go to black, and there will be a message that says the board is in executive session. It will return shortly. Once you come back in, we'll turn it back on.
Well done, Mr. Zeller.
Thank you.
Okay.
So for the public that may not have heard that since it was off mic, there will be a black screen, and there'll be a message on the screen stating that we are in executive session and that we will be returning back to public session.
Yeah, there's a little lag.
Yes,
On
unfortunately,
YouTube.
there will be a little bit of a lag. Just to be sure, Mr. Stankus, we're going to make sure that when we are receiving input from the public via the telephone call, we're going to have enough wait time to ensure that people recognize that we're waiting for phone calls, and if there's a period of time where there are no phone calls, we'll know that we can move on.
Okay.
All right? To the members of the board who are dialing in remotely, I'm going to be calling you directly from your cell phone in executive session so that you can pick up the audio of what's discussed in the executive session.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Executive session. enter back into public session. And we start with routine. Do you want to do roll call first? We have an additional.
Let's do roll call because we have another person.
I'd like to do roll call first.
Ms. Bissinger? What? Oh,
We'll roll call first.
redo it. Okay. I'm Bissinger? Mr. Blundo?
Here.
Mr. Fronte?
Here.
Mr. Hollowell?
Here.
Ms. Malinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ralph? Mr. Ralph? Is Ken there?
He's on the conference call. He's not muted.
Okay. Mr. Scher?
Present.
Mr. Stankus? I don't know if they can hear us.
I'll text Jim.
Yeah, let's make sure
And
they are
Mr.
both
Steinberg.
fully
Here.
engaged.
We are here, we're talking to each other.
We've got,
All right, thank you.
we have them muted.
All right,
They're not muted anymore.
got it.
We figured that by roll call, you would figure it out.
Need a motion?
I'm here too.
Okay, we move on to routine matters. We have one agenda item. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Ms. Bissinger? Yes. Mr. Blundo?
Abstain?
Mr. Fronte?
Yes.
Mr. Hollowell?
Yes.
Ms. Malinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ralph?
Abstain.
Mr. Scher?
Yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Steinberg?
Yes.
We now move into comments from the public. We have provided the public opportunities to be able to engage in providing feedback for the meeting tonight. The comments will very specifically be on agenda items only. One of the ways we're allowing folks to provide feedback is in person. Is there anyone in the audience who has something that they'd like to share regarding the agenda items only? We'd like for you to state your name and your town of residence. Please.
D. Scacchetti. You can go to the mic. D. Scacchetti, Rivervale. Tell me, agenda item with Mr. Puccio, the principal? Okay. First of all, thank you for listening to us. I am upset that there's nobody here tonight, and that's not any of our fault, the residents in the community or the students. A lot of them were afraid to come out, and with the governor and the messaging about not gathering with more than 10, and less than that, we feel we haven't had a chance to have our voice heard here. Mr. Puccio has been an amazing rock for this community and these students. They have been going through so much between the changes in the vice president and the retiring of the principal. He has carried them through without fault, and they have been extremely grateful for his support. He's well respected by the students and the teachers there, and we just feel as a community, we did not get a chance to share that with you. We understand we got notice on Thursday or Friday, and people have been trying to get emails in. I know you maybe only got a handful, but that is just a small portion of the folks. If you got 50 emails in 2 days, that's a lot, considering all that's going on in people's lives with elderly people not being able to get food and parents being sick. So I expect and would ask you to please think about this and give us time as a community to respond. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak? Okay, the second opportunity that we provided for the public was the opportunity to send in comments and prior to the meeting. Dr. Gunderson, can you please read those into the record?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. First comment comes from Michael Saul, 74 Crosley Terrace in Hillsdale. He states, Mr. Puccio is the right choice for PV. He has worked there for 12 years and has earned this spot. No disrespect to Mr. Hutchinson. Fix it. Second comment comes from Nick Bonanzos. Address is 655 Long Hill Road in Rivervale. I believe that Mr. Puccio deserves the position of principal of Pascack Valley High School. He has been a part of this school for 12 years and has made great relationships with the students and the faculty. He would make a great principal. Thank you. Next, Jim LaGrossa, 254 Washington Ave in Hillsdale. I would like to quote my own tweet, quote, Big mistake, no disrespect to Mr. Hutchinson. Our homegrown professional, Mr. Puccio, is the right man for the job. We have had 3 children go through the Pascack Valley school system. We have known Mr. Puccio for many years and have witnessed him forge valuable relationships with students, parents, and teachers. He is committed to this school and the community both as an educator as well as a resident. Mr. Puccio has always been all in at games, events, scholastically. He has always exhibited respect at every level. These are the qualities and exemplary characteristics that this school district deserves and we feel are necessary in our choice as principal. Mr. Puccio is very qualified for this position. I'm not sure if this decision can be reevaluated. It should be. It will be a great loss to PV and a tremendous gain to the school district who eventually hires Mr. Puccio as a result of his decision. As a result of this decision, you have shown him his ceiling here. It is unfortunate that we have shown those who now work hard, as Mr. Puccio has, that there is no respect given to the homegrown talent. Respectfully, the LaGrossa family. Maria Blundo, 302 Spring Street, Rivervale, New Jersey. Regarding not appointing Mr. Puccio as principal, members of the board, while I respect all the time and effort you put in as volunteers in our community, I feel you have missed the boat by not promoting John Puccio as being our next principal. Over the last year, we saw the retirement of a very popular principal and very popular assistant principal. I think what you are missing is that what makes PV special isn't just the high academic standards in which it achieves. As importantly, though, is the school culture and spirit that the former principal and his administrative team have cultivated over the last decade plus. Mr. Puccio is the last link to that team and community. From what I understand, many students, parents, teachers, and former teachers have spoken out overwhelmingly in favor of Mr. Puccio being appointed principal. While I do appreciate you giving us the ability to post comments, I do not believe the impact of these written words would be as effective communicating the support that Mr. Puccio has for our school. I believe you owe it to the community at large to delay this vote until all comments can be made in person. Thank you for your consideration. Robert Saul, 74 Crosley Terrace, Hillsdale, New Jersey. I respectfully request that the Board of Ed reconsider its position on hiring Mr. Hutchinson as principal at Pascack Valley Regional High School District. In my opinion, John Puccio is the only person for the position. He is vital to the success of Pascack Valley Regional High School District community. His attention to detail, dedication, and leadership make him the clear choice. Mr. Puccio has the ability to not only connect with the students at PV, but also the parents. He has a vested interest in the success of the high school, being a resident of the district. If Mr. Puccio is passed over for this position, I am afraid he will leave to advance his career when the opportunity presents itself. The void that would be created would be impossible to fill. I am still at a loss as to how our newest vice principal was picked. The administration of this school has been outstanding during my family's 6 years in the district. I am confused as to why we want to go in a new direction. If the system was broken, I would understand the change in direction, but it most certainly is not. The Board of Ed is making it clear to Mr. Puccio and the rest of the staff that promoting from within is not something you wish to do. I'm aware that Pascack Hills vice principal was promoted. Congratulations to him. That decision just makes this hiring all the more difficult to understand. Thank you for your consideration. Eileen O'Donnell, 620 Baylor Ave, Rivervale. Regarding not appointing Mr. Puccio as principal, members of the board, while I respect all the time and effort you have put in as volunteers in our community, I feel you have missed the boat by not promoting John Puccio as our next principal. Over the last year, we saw the retirement of a very popular principal and very popular assistant principal. I think what you are missing is that what makes PV special isn't just the high academic standards in which it achieves. As importantly, though, is the school culture and spirit that the former principal and his administrative team have cultivated over the last decade plus. Mr. Puccio is the last link to that team and community. From what I understand, many students, parents, teachers, and former teachers have spoken out overwhelmingly in favor of Mr. Puccio being appointed principal. While I do appreciate you giving us the ability to post comments, I do not believe the impact of these written words would be as effective communicating the support that Mr. Puccio has from our school. I believe you owe it to the community at large to delay this vote until all comments can be made in person. Thank you for your consideration. Pete Koenigs, 486 Rivervale Road, Rivervale, New Jersey. My name is Pete Koenigs, and my son Gus is a senior at Pascack Valley High School. My other son, Matthew, will be a freshman next year. I know some of you personally through church or other outside organizations. Dr. Gunderson has been a friend and huge supporter of Gus throughout the years. I am so appreciative of the open, supportive school that you have cultivated. As friends, we're truthful with each other. My family and I are extremely disappointed that Mr. Puccio wasn't recommended for the job as the next principal of Pascack Valley High School. He made a smooth transition into the role when Mr. DeMeo retired. The staff and students do not miss a beat since he came on the job. He has used the last few months to prove to you that he is a respected, important leader to the staff and students. I believe that both students and staff are expecting him to be recommended for the position. It is truly a punch in the gut to them. I ask you to take a step back and realize what you have in Mr. Puccio. He has been a loyal leader for you for years and has proven that he is capable of running a school the size of Pascack Valley with a diverse population. Being the principal of a large regional high school has many challenges that Mr. Puccio has either already faced or is capable of facing. We, my family, and I respectfully request that Mr. Puccio remain as principal. Thank you for your consideration. Lisa Lang, 241 Cedar Lane in Rivervale. With regards to not appointing Mr. Puccio as principal of Pascack Valley, while I respect all the time and effort you have put in as volunteers in our community, I feel you have taken a misstep in not promoting John Puccio as the next principal. Over the last year, we saw the retirement of a very popular principal and very popular assistant principal. I think what you are missing is that what makes PV special isn't just the high academic standards it achieves, as important as they are, is the school culture and spirit that the former principal and his administrative team have cultivated over the years. Mr. Puccio is the last link to that team and community. From what I understand, many students, parents, teachers, and former teachers have spoken out overwhelmingly in favor of Mr. Puccio being appointed principal. While I do appreciate you giving us the ability to post comments, I do not believe that the impact of these written words would be as effective as verbally communicating the support that Mr. Puccio has from our school. I believe you owe it to the community at large to delay this vote until all comments can be made in person. Thank you for your consideration. I'm just going to suggest to the board members that may have cell phones either on the table or next to their Zoom conferencing equipment, if you can remove it from the table so that it does not come across over the audio. Suzanne Specker, AKA Mrs. Susie, 168 Brookside Avenue in Rivervale, New Jersey. Good evening to all. I first would like to start with a thank you to Mr. Puccio for being our interim principal at Pascack Valley and doing a fine job. With that being said, I myself are a very active person in our community. I work for Rivervale Schools and work for the Police Department of Rivervale, and I live in Rivervale. Yes, I know Mr. Puccio personally and professionally and feel that he would be the person to handle such an important and responsible position. I have a son that goes to Pascack Valley, and knowing every day that Mr. Puccio is part of that school, I feel my son has good learning skills and is in safe hands. I think we all know that he is more than qualified. He has shown us the leadership when he took over as interim principal. Let's not waste any more time and give him the role he already deserves, principal. Thank you. Kashal Padya, 38 Rivervale Road, Rivervale, New Jersey. My name is Kashal Padya. I have been a Pascack Valley parent since 2014. I'm writing this email to voice my concern about your decision to appoint an unfamiliar candidate for the position of principal for the year 2021. While it's absolutely confusing to me that we are having this discussion, I would like to express my reasons for why Mr. John Puccio, is the best choice for this position. We have known Mr. Puccio since our first child started high school in 2014. As a vice principal, he has always been there to assist with any questions we had. His delightful and helping personality is something we look forward to when we attend PV events. He has done a seamless job keeping up with school routines and schedules after Mr. DeMeo's retirement. Besides being a principal, Mr. Puccio is also a PV parent, and he knows both sides of the coin. That's a tremendous amount of experience to bring to the table. No offense to this new candidate, but he doesn't know our students, parents, or faculty. This makes him already a few steps behind Mr. Puccio in terms of qualifications. Mr. Puccio is aware of every club and activity in the school. Students and representatives feel comfortable reaching out and communicating with Mr. Puccio. By assuming the responsibilities as an interim principal, Mr. Puccio has demonstrated that he is the most capable candidate for this position. If With that experience, we can't have Mr. Puccio as a principal, then I don't see any reason to appoint a total stranger who has no experience with our district. I hope you will reconsider your decision and consider Mr. Puccio for the position of principal for the year 2020-2021. Mary Beth Alepa, 440 Magnolia Ave in Hillsdale. I'm writing to let you know my disappointment in the decision to appoint anyone but Mr. John Puccio as principal of Pascack Valley High School. I have 2 children at Pascack Valley, and I have one that will be attending in 2 years. I would like to see his leadership continue. He has a vested interest in our community. He has a wonderful approach, and he knows our kids. My children were also disappointed to hear the news. I've been so impressed with his leadership since he took over as interim principal. The parents and students are stakeholders as well. Our community would like to be heard. Debbie Downs, 641 Alachi Way, Rivervale. As the parent of a current junior, I'm very upset to hear that John Puccio was not chosen as the new principal of Pascack Valley High School. For the past 5 years, we have been very happy with the leadership at the school, thanks in part to John Puccio. I've always felt my children were safe, challenged, and valued. It was not even a question in my mind that once Mr. DeMeo retired, that Mr. Puccio should replace him. Why would you look outside the district when you have a valuable asset with a proven track record? My daughter feels a connection with Mr. Puccio and is very comfortable interacting with him. My son, who is now a sophomore in college, received an excellent education and high school experience under John Puccio's leadership as well. Please, please, please reconsider appointing Mr. Puccio rather than bringing in an outsider who is not familiar with the student, school, and community. Krista Levine, 577 Egan Terrace, Rivervale. Regarding not appointing Mr. Puccio as principal, members of the board, while I respect all the time and effort you have put in as volunteers in our community, I feel you have missed the boat by not promoting John Puccio as being our next principal. Over the last year, we saw the retirement of a very popular principal and very popular assistant principal. I think what you are missing is what makes PV special isn't just the high academic standards in which it achieves. As importantly, though, is the school culture and spirit that the former principal and his administrative team have cultivated over the last decade plus. Mr. Puccio is the link to that team and community. From what I understand, many students, parents, teachers, and former teachers have spoken out overwhelmingly in favor of Mr. Puccio being appointed principal. While I do appreciate you giving us the ability to post comments, I do not believe the impact of these written words would be as effective communicating the support that Mr. Puccio has from our school. I believe you owe it to the community at large to delay this vote until all comments can be made in person. Thank you for your consideration. Anthony Vassallo, 854 Cambridge Road, Rivervale. It is with great concern that I question the decision of not choosing Mr. Puccio as Pascack Valley's permanent principal. I question why a candidate from another school seemed a better fit for our children than Mr. Puccio, who has served a successful 12 years at Pascack Valley High School. His professionalism and his commitment, not only to the school, but also to the community at large, is one that is held at high regard. Please reconsider finalizing this decision, given the challenging and uncertainty we are facing at the moment without hearing the voices of taxpayers. I believe we owe it to our children, the community, and the faculty at Pascack Valley High School to delay this vote until all comments can be made in person. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Alexa Vassallo, 854 Cambridge Road, Rivervale, New Jersey. As a former student at Pascack Valley High School, I find it hard to believe that Mr. Puccio is not the new principal. While in high school, I always felt that Mr. Puccio was the face of Pascack Valley. He always went out of his way to interact not only with the faculty, but also with the students. He was a consistent face at all school-wide events, and in my personal opinion, it wasn't because he had to be, but it's because he wanted to be. I always felt comfortable going up to Mr. Puccio with any concerns or questions I had, and he made sure everyone's concerns or questions were heard. Not only was he a role model in school, but he was a mentor to me as I pursued my career in education. He's held his standards high, and I aspire to carry some of those same qualities that Mr. Puccio has exhibited in my future teaching career. Whenever I see Mr. Puccio around town, he always takes extra time to inquire about how college life is going for me. I strongly urge you to hold off finalizing your decision. That way you can hear the voices of the Pascack Valley school community so we may help you make a better decision for the students, future students, and faculty of Pascack Valley High School. Michael Steffen, 638 Woodside Ave, Rivervale. I'm writing to respectfully request the delay to the recommendation of the new principal for Pascack Valley High School until you have an opportunity to perform further due diligence. As a father of 3, with 2 at Pascack Valley High School and 1 at Holdrum, I understand the importance of teachers, administrators, and school leaders. It goes beyond academics. It's about coaching and developing our children on how they show up, how they treat others, and challenging themselves to be better human beings. Since the moment I met John Puccio, it was clear that was his mission. John's following in value goes beyond the classroom and sweeps into town, where he has become a role model not just for our children, but adults as well. I lead a business helping Fortune 100 companies define leadership strategies, succession programs, workforce strategies, and overall talent programs. I know through my work that the power of a personal connection, a deep knowledge of an organization's core values, and the ability to bring to life a vision for the organization or community are what matters most. John displays all these characteristics. If the vice principal role is not a succession role for principal, then what is? Lastly, my children were terribly upset about the news. They simply just kept asking why and how. I understand choices involve a lot of factors, including some we may not be aware of. I also know these are tough decisions. Yet in my opinion, this should have been the easiest one the board has made in a long time. Please reconsider John Puccio for principal. Thank you. Brian McKeever, 221 Oak Ave, Rivervale. I'm writing this letter to the Board of Education and Mr. Gunderson in regards to the selection of Mr. Hutchinson as the new principal for Pascack Valley High School that will be formally introduced as the new Pascack Valley principal. I am sure he is a quality educator as well as an experienced principal. I find it puzzling that the board would look outside the district for a replacement of Principal DeMeo. I have known John Puccio for many years, both professionally and personally. On a professional basis, and being a former police officer within the borough of Hillsdale, John is a true professional who cares about the school, the students, as well as the faculty who work with him day in and day out. Personally, John, a husband, father of 2 local students, as well as being a Rivervale resident, is an individual who gives back to the community that he cares about, both personally and professionally. Not selecting John to be permanently appointed to the position of principal is not only mind-boggling, but a tragic loss to all those who attend the school, the faculty, as well as the future students of Pascack Valley High School. John has spent many dedicated years as an educational professional, not only as a teacher, problem solver, and administrator to the school he cares most about. Mr. Hutchinson has bounced around the Bergen County education circuit. John has been dedicated to Pascack Valley, and years of dedication is unmatched. I think perhaps the board needs to reevaluate their roles as members of the board, as well as Mr. Gunderson as the superintendent, and ask themselves, are we here for the present and future students of Pascack Valley High School, or just making a statement of what we want, making the students' priority secondary over egos and agendas? Mr. Puccio deserves and has proven that he is the only candidate for the position of principal of Pascack Valley High School, not Mr. Hutchinson. I believe the board should table this matter until proper public forum can be held in the future after the current health crisis has been declared safe for everyone and the public can speak in an open forum and speak on John's behalf. We can all patiently wait until a public forum can be held. I'm sure Mr. Hutchinson also understands, and if he was in Mr. Puccio's position, he would be asking for the same forum. Sam LaGrossa, 254 Washington Ave, Hillsdale. Not putting Mr. Puccio as principal is a terrible decision. The decision affected many people. Mr. Puccio is a part of the community, cares for his students, and is an overall sweet, respectful, and understanding adult. I know from speaking as a student, he is someone to look up to and is a role model for me. This decision is terrible. Students are definitely upset by this action. I am very upset by this action. Mr. Puccio has worked at Valley for 12 years. 12 years. He deserves more than this. I'm very upset for him and that he can't be the permanent principal. I'm going to miss him very much. Michael Garrett, 620 Maple Street, Rivervale. Dear board members, I understand that the board is considering hiring someone other than Mr. Puccio as permanent principal of Pascack Valley. I strongly object to this proposal. Mr. Puccio is a part of the PV community. He knows most, not all of our students. He knows most of, not all of our students, knows what motivates them and what does not. He has been a guiding figure for our district and someone we as parents can relate to. He has been and should continue to be someone we can count on and trust. Please reconsider your decision and appoint Mr. Puccio as principal. Tara Schlesinger, 76 Coopers Lane, Rivervale. I do believe the position of Pascack Valley High School rightfully belongs to Mr. Puccio. He has proven himself more than worthy of this position over the last 12 years. He is respected not only by students and teachers, but by parents as well. His commitment to PV goes above and beyond what anyone could imagine. His friendly demeanor is warm and welcoming to all, while his high expectations keep the students in line. It would be an absolute shame to offer the PV principalship to someone other than John Puccio. Frank Parisi, 24 Hunters Court, Hillsdale. John Puccio was an excellent vice principal when my daughters attended PVHS 2 years ago. We believe that he will be an excellent principal of PVHS and fully support him to be the next principal of our high school. Linda Parisi, 24 Hunters Court, Hillsdale. John Puccio was an excellent vice principal when my daughters attended PV 2 years ago. They have and still respect him in the capacity of an authoritative position. They found him fair and went above and beyond his usual role. I fully support him for principal of Pascack Valley High School. Heidi Markell, 127 Stewart Place, Rivervale. Yesterday I sent an email to board members and to Dr. Gunderson. Because we are not able to attend the meeting in person, I feel it is important to post the message here as well. Dear board members, my name is Heidi Markell. I am writing to express my disappointment over the fact that John Puccio was not hired to be principal of Pascack Valley High School. My daughter is a sophomore at PV. From the minute we entered that building for 8th grade orientation, we felt a part of the PV community. Mr. Puccio plays a huge role in that community feeling. As a parent, I've known that he is approachable and easy to talk to. The students love him, but at the same time respect him. I've seen him interact with staff and can see the positive relationships they have made with him. John Puccio is a true professional, an educator, and administrator who always puts the students first. As an educator myself, I know the importance of building relationships in order to foster a supportive learning environment. It is essential. PV already has that with Mr. Puccio. I cannot understand how bringing in an unknown person could be a better choice. I know it is not. I urge you to delay this decision and reconsider hiring John Puccio as the principal of Pascack Valley High School. Lisa Marion O'Reilly, 133 Cedar Lane, Hillsdale. To the members of the Board of Education, it has been made public that the selection of the vacant principal position has been filled by Brian Hutchinson. I, along with many in the community, would like to understand how the board came to this decision. With Mr. Puccio having years of experience as vice principal at Pascack Valley and stepping in as interim principal, it was a logistical progression to have him become the new principal of the school. The decision by the Board of Education shows that loyalty and dedication does not get rewarded. What type of message does this send to our students? Many of them are asking why he did not get the job. Your actions encourage students not to be loyal or dedicated, something I see on a daily basis with this generation that, in my opinion, is not a positive attribute. I believe all of us deserve to understand why Mr. Puccio was not given the job rather than why Mr. Hutchinson was chosen. I am proud that my children will go to Pascack Valley, as it is an innovative and progressive school that encourages unity yet promotes individuality. I believe Mr. Puccio has been a part of making Pascack Valley the school that it is. Why is the board bringing in someone new to the school, which may disrupt the success the school has achieved? How do you explain this choice to students? Are you not setting up Mr. Hutchinson for failure with the current student body, since the majority of the students want Mr. Puccio as their principal? In addition, on Saturday night, Mr. Puccio called my cell phone to inform me of an issue at the company where my son has been going for an internship. Even knowing the current status of his position, he still continued to do his job with grace, compassion, and dignity. Mr. Puccio showed again why he is highly respected, not only by the students, but parents. I cannot thank him enough for doing the right thing and putting PV and the students before himself and his family. At this time, additional uncertainty and change is not what Pascack Valley needs, but rather a calm, rational, trusted leader to help navigate the school forward. I ask the board to reconsider their decision. Thank you for your time. William Dietrich, 112 Turbell Parkway, Rivervale. I write to you to express my support for John Puccio to be considered for the position of principal of Pascack Valley High School. Mr. Puccio is a shining example of what it means to be part of the community. He lives within the district, volunteers within the district, and has made himself a part of the district. While his involvement in the community alone is not enough to make him a great principal, it is certainly an amazing start. I have had the distinct pleasure of working with Mr. Puccio in a professional capacity, as he is a consummate professional. During my professional interactions with Mr. Puccio, it is always evident that he had the needs of his students at the forefront of any problem. He always expressed his concern for their well-being and how any proposed action would impact them and their personal growth. Finally, I have known John as a neighbor and a friend for several years. John is always willing to lend a hand, say hello to your children, and stop to ask you how you are doing. As my children enter the school system, John Puccio is the exact type of person I want them to be around. I hope this board can reconsider its decision to make John Puccio the principal of Pascack Valley High School. Mr. and Mrs. Mercado, 612 Sunny Hill Terrace. Regarding Article 8, Human Resources, Item 2, new hire Brian Hutchinson at the recommendation of the superintendent. What is the process of recommendation for this important position of principal of Pascack Valley High School? John Puccio is an excellent candidate that deserves this position. His positive attitude, approachability, and overall resolve to look out for PV kids is a harbinger for future success as the leader of Pascack Valley High School. Elena Spathis, teacher at Pascack Valley. In support of Mr. John Puccio, what I can say is that I have felt very privileged to work under Mr. Puccio's leadership. Mr. Puccio is a true servant leader who never ceases to place the needs of Pascack Valley students, families, and teachers first. To start, Mr. Puccio possesses all the qualities that teachers hope for in an administrator. He is kind, sincere, organized, ambitious, supremely professional, and is always supportive. He's a highly effective leader, manager, and communicator. In such an unsettling, unprecedented time in our world, Mr. Puccio has served as a calming and reassuring force for all of us. As we transition into virtual schooling, Mr. Puccio has shown that he is by our side and will guide and support us through the process. Additionally, he never fails to show his genuine appreciation to each employee in our building. He seeks teachers' input and is a true collaborator. Likewise, he is always present, accessible, and greets everyone with a big smile. He makes teachers feel valued and maintains the positive, upbeat culture of our building. Upon reading this quote, I could not help but think of him. Quote, leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of those in your charge, end quote. Mr. Puccio keeps our Pascack Valley family together and united. He takes care of us. I could not hope for anything more in a leader. Elena Spathis. Trish Epstein, 574 Forest Drive, Rivervale. We are very disappointed to hear that Mr. Puccio was not chosen for the permanent position of principal of Pascack Valley. Our daughter is a senior at PV this year and has never had anything but positive things to say about Mr. Puccio throughout the years. As an administrator, his door is always open to students, whether they're looking for assistance or to just have a conversation to offer advice and encouragement. As a parent, it's good to know that there's always someone on campus who is caring and willing to help the students. Seeing him greet the students each morning with a smile on his face is a great way for them to start the day. It is also comforting to know that he has been at PV for many years and continues to show great passion, enthusiasm, and pride for everything that is Pascack Valley. Please reconsider not choosing John Puccio for the Pascack Valley principal. Matthew Killian, 23 Whitman Place, Hillsdale. I find the decision not to hire John Puccio as principal of Pascack Valley High School to be upsetting and slightly unfair. Mr. Puccio has served the district for several years as an administrator and has worked for a few months now as interim principal, which to me makes it seem like he's fully qualified for the job. Beyond what he deserves, I think the board must also consider how this decision is unfair to the students. John Puccio knows the system at our school and is respected by faculty and students because he is respectful to them as well. I feel that he is capable of implementing any new policies for the benefit of the school. In my time at Pascack Valley, I always thought of Mr. Puccio as a supportive administrator who always worked for the benefit of the students and faculty instead of for himself. I hope the school board will delay their decision in order to reevaluate Mr. Puccio for the position of principal. Francesca Silvano, teacher at Pascack Valley. I'm writing this district in support of Pascack Valley High School's interim principal, Mr. John Puccio. I believe that Mr. Puccio would serve as an ideal principal of Pascack Valley High School. Mr. Puccio has served as an exceptional leader as an assistant principal and as interim principal. He is an organized and strategic partner who strives to make the best possible decisions for Pascack Valley students, teachers, and their families. While he has demonstrated highly effective management skills, he has also proven to be an exceptional and superb leader. As Cunningham and Cordero in 2013 state in their text, Educational Leadership, A Bridge to Improved Practice, quote, leadership is doing the right things and management is doing things right. Mr. Puccio, end quote. Mr. Puccio has achieved both of these things with success. It is largely conveyed through the meaningful relationships he has established with teachers, students, families, and community members. I believe that Pascack Valley High School's positive culture is due to the strong relationships that Mr. Puccio has established. He's both a transformative leader who strives to make meaningful, necessary changes to school policies and simultaneously is a servant leader who aims to serve the needs of each person within the building. His presence throughout the school exemplifies his commitment to serve our Pascack Valley family. His willingness to collaborate and engage in two-way sincere dialogues with teachers, students, and their families is admirable and inspiring. Mr. Puccio is a true leader to emulate, and his appointment as principal at Pascack Valley High School would aid in maintaining a positive, unified school culture. Just recently, I happened to congratulate him on how graciously he handled all the emergencies in light of the ongoing health crisis. As a spring musical choreographer, I watched him personally discuss and handle the changes in the theater program calendar and the consequent disappointment of the children in the cast and crew. I personally don't believe that a job could have been handled by just anyone, but he acted like a hero, a gentleman, a guide, a father. In summary, it is my hope that the Board of Education considers and acknowledges the perspectives of Pascack Valley's teachers on this matter. Thank you for your time and consideration. I sincerely appreciate it. Kathleen Donnell, 20 Hopkins Street, Hillsdale. Mr. Puccio has been at Pascack Valley High School throughout my children's years at Pascack Valley. He played a very important role throughout the years. He gained the trust of both parents and students by consistently being present each and every day. The students find him very approachable. He is a fair disciplinarian. He would be the appropriate choice for principal because he already has a history with the school. He knows our children. He has a vested interest in PV. As a parent, I stand behind Mr. Puccio 100%. There would be no transition for him to become familiar with to the district or school. He is the best choice for principal. Colette Killian, 23 Whitman Place, Hillsdale. I'm writing in support of John Puccio. I am sickened over the thought that he has been overlooked as principal at Pascack Valley. It has caused me to lose faith that the board has the best interests of the district in mind. I have known Mr. Puccio since he began as assistant principal at Pascack Valley. He is extremely professional, smart, fair, involved, and positive. I volunteered at the school for over 10 years, and I have witnessed him work well with staff, students, and parents. He is trustworthy and has built a positive relationship with the stakeholders at the school, and this is something that is not easy to achieve and should not be casually dismissed. I urge you to acknowledge Mr. Puccio's strengths and make him the choice for principal at Pascack Valley High School. It would be best for the school. Kathleen Connolly, 213 Highland Ave, Rivervale, New Jersey. I respectfully disagree with your decision not to hire Mr. Puccio as the permanent principal of Pascack Valley High School. Given our current situation with COVID-19, I believe the board should not make any decisions until our concerns have been addressed. Renee Raymond, 667 Rita Drive, Rivervale. I am saddened and disappointed to learn that Mr. Puccio was not selected to be the Pascack Valley principal. He is highly respected by parents and students alike and has worked tirelessly for our school community. I find it difficult to justify another hire that is more suited or qualified for the position. Beverly Barcelona, 97 Coopers Lane, Rivervale. I understand you are making a decision to hire a principal for Pascack Valley High School, and it is not John Puccio. This would clearly be a grave mistake, and I can only surmise that the decision that is being made has not been thought out by anyone who knows him or understands the leadership he has brought to Pascack Valley High School during the last 12 years. Both my children are graduates. During the time they were students, they both got to know Mr. Puccio well. For them, Mr. Puccio has become a figure that not only represents a strong importance of academics at school, but the compassionate culture that transpires every day between students, staff, and administration. In addition to his experience at Pascack Valley High School, his dedication to improving our educational system and continuing efforts to create personal and meaningful connections with students shows just how deeply the character and qualifications of a single player can impact an entire school. This unique set of characteristics is not something that can be transferred from another candidate. This has not been the position and is not familiar with students, the staff, and the parents. This is something that takes time and a long time to build. To create the very best school for our children, we must first start with having the very best leadership. There's absolutely no one more qualified or more deserving to lead Pascack Valley than John Puccio. He is fair, thoughtful, and far more qualified with his experience than anyone up until this point to be principal of Pascack Valley. You must rethink this decision and take into account those of us who have spoken up in favor of John Puccio. Laura Stiles, 174 Hopkins Street, Hillsdale. Hello. Mr. Puccio has been a constant positive presence in the lives of my children at Pascack Valley. We have been part of the high school for the past 6 years, and he is and has always been efficient, quick to respond, and a comforting and solid presence in these uncertain times. He has become the face of PV, and students and parents alike respect him and the work that he does here. Personally, I was looking forward to the day that he would be principal, and I believe it will be a grave disservice to the students to put anyone else in that position. Thank you for your time. Elise Schneider, 94 Oakland Street, Hillsdale. We were quite surprised to hear that an outside candidate was awarded the principal position at Pascack Valley. The students are shocked and disappointed. John Puccio proved his ability during his brief tenure as interim principal. The students feel he is compassionate, listens to their needs, and truly has their best interests at heart. In these difficult times particularly, they feel that once again their opinions and needs are not being placed at the forefront. As a parent, I am disappointed that another highly qualified educator and administrative professional has been overlooked, and we now face the possibility that he may leave the district. In the interest of transparency, significant justification should be provided as to why a respected, high qualified interim principal was not awarded the permanent position. Kate Bockrich, 541 Prospect Ave. I'm writing regarding Vice Principal John Puccio. I was surprised to hear that Vice Principal John Puccio was not recommended for the Pascack Valley High School principal position. I have had kids at PVHS since 2014 and have had nothing but good experiences with Mr. Puccio. He is consistently supportive of the kids and parents. He is always there to answer questions and offer words of encouragement. He is a strong supporter of all the programs and activities that PVHS offers. I have seen him at numerous extracurricular events, and he is there every morning to greet students as they arrive at school. While I appreciate all the time and effort that went into choosing PVHS's new principal, I strongly encourage the Board of Education to reevaluate their decision on the recommendation of an outside candidate for the position of Pascack Valley principal. I believe John Puccio would do an excellent job as principal of Pascack Valley. Thank you. Geraldine Della Pesca, 330 Cedar Lane, Rivervale. I would like to take this opportunity to express my extreme disappointment having found out that Mr. John Puccio has been passed over for the position of principal of Pascack Valley. I also feel that I need to introduce myself to the board. I have had 5 children. All have been students at PV from 2005 through this year's graduation. For the past 15 years, I have personally been involved in countless school volunteer programs, as well as serving on the Guidance Advisory Council, the PFO, professional search committees, co-chairing many safe graduations, and co-chairing community events such as the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life. I mention this to give the board an idea of the many years of experience and change that I have seen while at PV. I've always believed that it is important to find the best person for any position here at PV. Sometimes that requires hiring outside the district, while other times we have been fortunate enough to have that professional among our PV family. It is very clear that in this case, the latter is the obvious choice. Mr. John Puccio is a consummate professional. He is a true leader and is accessible to students, parents, and the community at large. He is a problem solver and a great communicator. Mr. Puccio is a dedicated administrator who has served Pascack Valley High School with integrity and goodwill for the past 12 years. I urge the Board of Education to reconsider Mr. John Puccio for the position of principal at Pascack Valley. Melissa Starr, 605 Forest Drive, Rivervale. Dear Board, I'm writing in support of Mr. John Puccio for principal of Pascack Valley and to delay confirming Mr. Brian Hutchinson. To the best of my awareness, Mr. Puccio has proven his knowledge and dedication towards PVHS and its community. Mr. Puccio is approachable, responsive, reasonable, and well-informed. He has pre-existing positive relationships with the student body and is a dedicated individual to the community. He is already in a well-established, respected reputation, is grounded in our community, and in my opinion, would be an exemplary choice as principal. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to voice my opinion. Charlie Saul. I don't have an address here, but I believe there was another Saul, and we can reference what that address was if we make that connection. I think Mr. Puccio should be the principal of Pascack Valley High School because he's been there for a very long time in the position of vice principal, and he 100% deserves and has the qualities to be principal. He is an approachable person that is willing to help with problems, and all around just an awesome guy that makes the right decisions for the school and deserves the spot of principal. Also, most important is that he cares for students and the success in school. G-Ting C, 137 Greiger Drive, Rivervale. Get Mr. Puccio as principal and not some random from some other town. Lauren Morrissey, 807 Loretta Drive, Rivervale. As a student, Mr. Puccio has impacted my time at Pascack Valley tremendously. I am extremely disappointed that it is even up for debate who the new principal is going to be. Mr. Puccio has worked very hard to form meaningful relationships with the students at Pascack Valley, and he deserves this position. Matthew Harris, 78 Taylor Street, Hillsdale. I'm a junior at Pascack Valley High School. I was extremely disappointed to hear that the superintendent has not recommended Mr. Puccio for the position of Pascack Valley principal, but instead an outside candidate. I believe that Mr. Puccio is a good man and a great leader. I feel that he has done an excellent job as both the assistant principal and interim principal here at Pascack Valley. Last year, during a challenging time, Mr. Puccio was incredibly supportive. When I needed to interact with him again this year, he remembered my previous situation and again offered compassionate leadership and support. He went out of his way to share kind words with me and always made sure that I knew that he believed in me, that he knew that he believed in me. I look up to him as a role model and leader, and I would be very disappointed if Mr. Puccio were to leave Pascack Valley. Therese Dahl, 42 Glendale Drive, Hillsdale. On behalf of my family, I would like to state that the Board of Education should reconsider hiring outside the district for a principal at Pascack Valley. My daughter is a senior at PV, and Mr. Puccio has helped her through many of her more trying times during the year, whether it be an email response or just a comforting smile. All the students love Pooch, as he's called. Most importantly, he knows Pascack Valley, its students, and its parents, and will continue to work for the good of our academic community. Simply put, Mr. Puccio should be made the permanent principal. Thank you. Kevin Harris, 78 Taylor Street, Hillsdale. I'm a resident of Hillsdale with 2 students at Pascack Valley High School. I was unhappy to hear that the superintendent has recommended an outside candidate for the position of principal at Pascack Valley and not John Puccio. With 12 years at Pascack Valley and 23 overall years in education, Mr. Puccio is well qualified for the role of principal. He has done an excellent job as assistant principal and as interim principal. I feel we would understandably risk losing him if he is passed over for the principal position, which would be a great loss for our students. During these current uncertain times, Pascack Valley would greatly benefit from his steady, professional, excellent leadership. Oh, we have the same comment from the same person, so it's a repeat comment. It's a duplicate. Alexandra Harris, 78 Taylor Street, Hillsdale. I'm a freshman at Pascack Valley High School. I was upset to hear that the superintendent has recommended an outside candidate for principal position at Pascack Valley and not Mr. Puccio. Mr. Puccio helped me earlier this year with a situation that was really stressful for me. I was nervous about meeting with him, but he was supportive and helped to fix the problem. I feel comfortable going to him if I ever need help and trust that he considers what is best for me as a student. I would be very sad if he left Pascack Valley High School. Dina Noon, 260 Magnolia Ave, Hillsdale. Dear board members, I am writing to express my sadness over the fact that John Puccio was not hired as the new principal of Pascack Valley. I have 2 sons, a sophomore and a senior at Pascack Valley. They both are enjoying their experiences at PV that is due in part to the amazing leadership and the excellent faculty at Pascack Valley. Mr. Puccio has had a positive presence at Pascack Valley as vice principal and has continued as he has led the school as interim principal. I've observed the students' interaction with Mr. Puccio, and you can just see the respect they have for him and how happy they are that he is their principal. The feeling of community is strong at PV, and he has helped foster that as the leader of the school. I am lucky enough to coach the dance team at Pascack Valley and have had the pleasure of dealing with Mr. Puccio on a professional level. He has been extremely supportive of the dance team, coming to our dress rehearsals before nationals, our sweetheart competition, and stopping in at practices. This has shown my girls that he truly cares about them and that they are a valued part of the Pascack Valley High School. I am proud that my children attend Pascack Valley, and I am honored to be a coach at Pascack Valley. PV is an innovative school, always leading the way in progressive education. Mr. Puccio has been a part of this progress since he began. He knows the ways of PV and his vested interest. He is dedicated and loyal to Pascack Valley. Does that not mean anything? What are we teaching our children? This is the time of uncertainty and anxiety for many. Our community needs a confident, inspiring, and trustworthy leader to keep pushing Pascack Valley forward. I hope the board will reconsider the recommendation for principal. Lori Ayala, 580 Bernita Drive, Rivervale. I've always been impressed with the work ethic and character of John Puccio. He seemed to step up at a critical time when the district needed him. The transition from Tom DeMeo's retirement to John Puccio's leadership was, from my perspective, seamless. It is for this reason I'm surprised the district is not allowing him to continue as his role as principal. Gary Byer, 781 Drake Lane, Rivervale. My comment has to do with the recent decision to hire someone outside to fill the position of principal at Pascack Valley. I believe John Puccio is the best person for the job, and while I'm sure Mr. Hutchinson is a fine candidate, the decision to go outside of our school district when we have the ideal candidate within our district is just not right. John has done a fantastic job as assistant principal and most recently as the interim principal. He is well loved and respected by the students, parents, coaches, and by all who know him. From a parent's perspective, John has had a tremendously positive impact on all three of my children, and from a coach's perspective, he has always been extremely active and supportive of our wrestling program and all sports at PV. I urge you to please reconsider. Christopher Genta, teacher at Pascack Valley. As a 14-year teacher at Pascack Valley High School, I can unequivocally state that John Puccio has poured his heart and soul into our building. He has attempted to promote inclusion and equity throughout our school, and I wholeheartedly endorse him for the full-time principal position at Pascack Valley. I urge the Board of Education not to silence the voices and opinions of students, parents, and teachers comprising the Pascack Valley community. I also implore the Board of Education not to vote on a permanent principal in the middle of an international pandemic where the public participation will obviously be vastly limited. Caroline Ryder, 247 Cambridge Road, Hillsdale. We would like to see Mr. Puccio given the principal position at Pascack Valley High School. His presence has brought a positive environment to the school that was previously lacking. He is articulate and responsive. Please reconsider your decision. Thank you. Donna Harris, 78 Taylor Street, Hillsdale. I'm a resident of Hillsdale with 2 students at Pascack Valley High School. I was extremely disappointed to hear that the superintendent has recommended an outside candidate for the principal position at Pascack Valley and not John Puccio. I've had several occasions to interact with Mr. Puccio, including a challenging situation during a particularly difficult time for our family, another time about academics, and once involving a situation related to an extracurricular activity. Without exception, I have found Mr. Puccio to be responsive, professional, compassionate, and above all, supportive of my teens. I trust him, and I know my students trust him. He has been a leader and a positive role model for my son. I believe he genuinely cares about our students and is committed to offering our students an optimal learning environment that promotes a positive and inclusive culture. I've always thought that Mr. Puccio would like to make an excellent principal, and for now, more than ever, the school needs someone like Mr. Puccio as its leader. Hector Martinez, 830 Loretta Drive, Rivervale. To the Board of Education and others whom this may concern, I wrote a letter previously and submitted it to you in an effort to prompt reconsideration of naming the future principal of Pascack Valley High School, specifically asking that John Puccio be named the high school's future principal. I don't know what it takes to be a principal, but as a parent of 2 successful high school graduates, I have some thoughts around the culture and environment that John Puccio has had a direct hand in guiding. Number 1, college preparedness. This high school has held a high standard for education and, most importantly, an environment that encourages all students to achieve to the best of their ability. John's leadership and emphasis on personal goals and striving was exemplary and set the tone for faculty and thus students. Number 2, support and personal accountability. John led by example, and whether it was small instances of him holding himself accountable to achieving what he has set out to do, or taking time out during the day to understand a kid's goal and follow up the very next time he saw them in the hall. There are countless examples of his presence and helping hand with a member of the faculty, parent, or student. Number 3, listener. Amidst a busy schedule, John always finds the time to talk with, or meet with any student or faculty member to learn, ask, and listen to what is driving them, important to them, or just flat out going on in their lives. This intimate knowledge helped, quote, color the picture, end quote, much like a manager would as he or she walks through their operation to make better, more informed decisions. He does this with a blend of compassion and empathy that allows for each encounter to be formative for all involved. Number 4, communicator. As is with his effective listening, John has the unique ability to handle complex situations, and through effective listening, empathy, and assertiveness, he has the ability to deliver clear messages that all faculty can follow in times of need, or parents and students can understand. This applies in all situations, whether good times or difficult ones. Number 5, pride. John drives and leads by example. He is present physically, and if not, always aware of a student, faculty, or team related. He's always aware of a student, faculty member, or team related to his school, We all matter. His leadership and pride in everything he does, including his pride in our school, bleed through the entire Pascack Valley community. There are other reasons why I believe John isn't just a good choice, but truthfully the only choice for our next principal. My children will not benefit firsthand from this appointment, but the future students of PVHS will. I cannot emphasize enough that leadership and selflessness at a time where both are in scarcity in this world abound in John Puccio. I don't know the other candidate. I'm sure he is good as well, but I can assure you the future of PVHS and the students and community within it are better with John Puccio at the head of it. Thank you for taking the time to read this note. Laura Perrone, 176 Evergreen Street, Hillsdale. When a student walks down a hallway, they want a principal to know their name. They want the principal to remember their face. They want someone to admire. They want someone who they've seen putting in the time and effort just like they do. In today's world, students want to feel safe. They want the school to feel like their second home. They want to know that the principal has already established a relationship with their teachers and parents. In a world with so many uncertainties, they want to see a principal with a PVHS history. They want true leadership and stability. Valley pride comes with time and loyalty. I believe I speak for many when I write, we don't just like Mr. Puccio, we trust him. Great school, quote, great school leaders constantly pay attention. They build a cultured focus on student learning. They confront mediocre teaching. They invite, they inspire, they support families, schools, and school staff in ways that lead to improvement. They want to be trusted, not simply liked. End quote. Laura Pascack, teacher, Pascack Valley. I'm writing you today to recommend John Puccio for the full-time principal position at Pascack Valley. I've been a teacher at Pascack Valley High School for 8 years and have had the privilege of working with Mr. Puccio for all 8 of those years. John Puccio exemplifies what it means to have Valley pride. He works every single day to make our building a better place, listening to his students, his staff, and his community. He promotes productive dialogue that fosters a positive learning and teaching environment for all and makes his staff and students feel like they have a voice. With his time as assistant principal, and even with his short time as interim principal, John has made a positive impact at Pascack Valley. I would encourage the Board of Ed to listen to the students, faculty, and community that make up Pascack Valley when making this decision. Due to the current international pandemic, I'm also asking that the board delay their decision to vote on a permanent principal in order to allow for a meeting with a more public participation. George Celia, teacher at Pascack Valley. As an 18-year teacher at Pascack Valley High School, I can unequivocally state that John Puccio has poured his heart and soul into our building. He has attempted to promote inclusion and equity throughout our school, and I wholeheartedly endorse him for the full-time principal position at Pascack Valley High School. I urge the Board of Education not to silence the voices and opinions of students, parents, and teachers comprising the Pascack Valley community. I also implore the Board of Education not to vote on a permanent principal in the middle of an international pandemic, where public participation will obviously be vastly limited. David Harnett, 808 Elaine Lane Court. Dear board members, I hope all is well with you and your family and loved ones, and they are staying healthy. I am sending you my thoughts on this topic and can certainly forward this email to another portal that will better serve my suggestions. Regarding the administrative choice of a principal at Pascack Valley, Hillsdale. My son graduated from Pascack Valley in 2010 and my daughter in 2017. My other son is graduating this year in 2020 and then another in 2021. My daughter is on the dance team, and my son and other daughter attend many home events. Mr. Puccio always goes out of his way to say hello, but more importantly asks, how are they doing? They always look forward to seeing John. My younger kids have also thought Mr. Puccio thought of him as the principal. I am writing to you tonight in hope that the PV administration reconsider their choice. If there are mitigating circumstances, such as academic or professional qualifications that prevent Mr. Puccio from being chosen, then the administration has the right to that choice, and we all move on. If it is a close vote, then I may suggest shared co-principal designate and having the position equally managed, although this won't work due to the administrative protocol and salary restraints, I'm sure. Last, we all know Mr. Puccio is the eyes and ears of Pascack Valley and the only choice for student morale. It will take at least 2 years or maybe longer for the new principal to earn the respect of your students. Unless he hides in his office and avoids interaction with students and parents, he'll never realize how much John is loved. I feel bad for the new incoming principal. I've been in this situation myself, and it's not going to be fun for anyone. PV has had a really tough stretch the last 2 years, and to shake things up now is the absolute wrong timing. Students need stability now more than ever, not the dramatic change that this will bring. What if Mr. Puccio decides not to hang around? I can't imagine what my daughter would think not having John there every morning to say hello. The administration should do the right thing and figure this out. They all have a great opportunity, and there's still plenty of time. I appreciate the great work from you and your team as well. Andrea and Kevin Saul, 601 Park Place, Rivervale. While we hope the board is inundated with comments and feedback regarding your decision not to promote John Puccio to the position of principal of Pascack Valley High School, we echo the sentiments of our friends, our children, and our other community members who believe this is the wrong decision. While we are sure on paper other candidates may have similar credentials and experience, John's current and past roles at Pascack Valley, his relationship with the faculty, students, and families in the community cannot be discounted. They are critical. John has continued to foster an environment at the school that promotes critical thinking, independence, and mutual respect. He is responsive, available, and approachable to both students and parents, and has worked tirelessly to continue the innovative approach towards education that makes PV the successful institution it has become. Without question, he is the best candidate, and the board's decision on this matter is inexplicable. Though we are sure the candidate recommended to you by our superintendent meets the qualifications for the position of principal, John Puccio has, over the last 12 years, demonstrated that he is a vital and integral part of the Pascack Valley community. His recent appointment to step in and assume the role as interim principal has been seamless, and his performance has proved to many voters that he has already earned the job. You send a cryptic message to the students and families of Pascack Valley by hiring an outside candidate when you have a homegrown talent that has put so much of his time and energy into his role while continuing to seek advancement and responsibility. How do you explain to the kids that his kind of work ethic and moral composition casts aside to bring someone in from the outside? We urge you to reconsider your decision. William Lynch, teacher at Pascack Valley. At a time when our district, as well as our community, is having a rough time during this pandemic, it would be a wise decision to postpone the appointment of any new administrators. We need to have some consistency. Our school district is extremely fractured, and a change at this time would not be beneficial to any of us in the district who are trying to work through these difficult times. Prentice Chang, 633, Rivervale. Thank you for facilitating comments to be heard in this manner during this difficult time. I'm writing to you today to urge you to reconsider your choice for principal of Pascack Valley and voice my support for John Puccio. I'm a firm believer in the idea of promoting from within, that if there is a person who is qualified and interested in pursuing an open position within an organization, that they should be considered above those from the outside. From both my personal interactions with John and also seeing him at many school functions, he has shown himself to be a competent, professional, personable, and extremely well-liked individual. I'm sure the person you have chosen over John is perfectly qualified in his own right, but I think that you're missing an opportunity to reward a hardworking, qualified, and dedicated member of the faculty at Pascack Valley and promote from within. We're sending a message that in order to move up, you need to leave the school, and by that risk losing faculty that we want to retain and see prosper along with our kids. There are many others I know who feel the same way. However, they may not have known or had the opportunity to submit comments as I have done today. Please reconsider John Puccio for principal of Pascack Valley. Arjeen Safari, teacher at Pascack Valley. I would like to ask that the decision about the next principal of Pascack Valley would be delayed and more time and consideration would be given to Mr. Puccio's candidacy. It is my strong belief that if given a chance, Mr. Puccio would be an exceptional, phenomenal principal. Mr. Puccio has already gained tremendous support and respect from our faculty and students. Without such respect and support, no changes or reforms would be possible, regardless of their effectiveness or validity. I sent more of my thoughts to the board members via an email. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. Barbara Borghi, teacher at Pascack Valley. As a teacher in this district, I consider myself a vested member and strong supporter of the Pascack Valley community. As such, I care not about politics, but about the best interest of my students whom I cherish, support, and nurture as my own. Some of you in this board know from firsthand experience what I mean. As for every individual in this community, the most important thing for me is to have the best leader for our school, one that will provide our children with the education and experiences they deserve in order to become their ideal selves. Based on available data, I have made a thorough and informed evaluation of the final candidates submitted to the principal position. Consequently, I am writing to support Mr. John Puccio. My experiences prove that when it comes to successful leaders, trust, loyalty, and personal commitment to excellence are indispensable to get things done. Therefore, I feel responsible to highlight that Mr. Puccio is and has demonstrated a personal, genuine, and selfless investment in our children. As a community, we must appreciate that Mr. Puccio has made Rivervale his home and chose to send his children to our school. Mr. Puccio puts his face to his beliefs and his money where his mouth is. As an interim principal, Mr. Puccio has proved that he's a strong enough leader to face challenges, humble enough to seek and appreciate expert input and support, and smart enough to know that strength comes from uniting people and building cooperation across lines. His ability to earn the respect of the infrequent opposition to incorporate dissenting ideas in his decisions is unique within our school community. We all know that it is in trying times that people turn to the captain of the ship for guidance, hope, and inspiration. Heaven knows those times are upon us, and it only behooves us to have a person in charge that enjoys the support of all stakeholders. This is a fact. John Puccio has earned and enjoys the support of people, students, teachers, staff, and parents that will go through fire for him. When considering the appointment of a new principal, I respectfully urge the board to consider the unique environment of Pascack Valley High School and the need for loyalty and collaboration that is required in order to accomplish the objectives that our Board of Ed has for Pascack Valley. Also of importance, when it comes to implementation, is that there will be no learning curve that Mr. Puccio can hit the ground running to execute the objectives of the board. Pascack Valley has a student body of 1,300 students that have diverse needs and families that have big dreams and lofty goals for their children. It has a demographic and socioeconomic makeup that requires different skill sets and a smaller district with different dynamics, Pascack Valley also has a history and character that will play an enormous role in determining the success of any future plans. Now is not the time to experiment. People want the safety and security of someone they trust. Finally, as you're ready to cast your yays and nays, I hope that you will take time and listen to the voices of people that had voted you into this position, that pay all of our salaries, and that each day entrust the future of their children and of this world to your decisions. We are a family, the Pascack Valley family, and we are faced with a hard choice. Whatever your vote will be, please do what is best for you and our family. May you all stay healthy in this trying time. Wishing you all the best. Lauren Johnson, teacher at Pascack Valley. I believe that John Puccio would serve as an ideal principal of Pascack Valley High School. He has served as an exceptional leader, as assistant principal and interim principal. I believe that people work hard for leaders who work hard for them. John works hard for us. Bill Birdie, 22 Sherwood Drive, Hillsdale. Hi, I know that the remote teaching is new and just getting started. This is a non-agenda item. We'll table this for later when we deal with non-agenda items. There we go. Let me make sure the last comment. Okay, we're good. We have another one. Okay. Christine McGonigal, 589 Thoreau Drive, Rivervale. As a Rivervale taxpayer and a Pascack Valley High School parent, I would like to make known my thoughts on the principal position at Pascack Valley. I am surprised and disappointed that Mr. Puccio is not being recommended for the position. I have known John Puccio personally for many years as a parent, a coach, and as an administrator. I have witnessed firsthand his dedication to his own children and to all children. I have a daughter who graduated in Pascack Valley in 2019 and a current 10th grader who both have had nothing but positive experiences with Mr. Puccio. He has a wonderful rapport with the students and parents alike, and obviously has the experience at PV that would be extremely beneficial going forward. It was unfortunate timing that the school lost its long-standing principal this year and a long-standing assistant principal last year. John Puccio has been the only constant in the administration and has done an excellent job as interim principal. Mr. Puccio has worked hard for our children. He deserves this position, and I hope that the board will reconsider their recommendation to bring in an outsider. We have one more written comment, and then we will open up comments to the public via the telephone call. And I believe that information may be posted on the screen so that people have the number for easy reference. The phone lines are not open yet. They will be after Ms. Molinelli opens them up. Okay. And we have one more speaker that we will listen to from the audience. Anthony Vassallo, 854 Cambridge Road in Rivervale. It is with great concern that I question the decision for not choosing Mr. Puccio as Pascack Valley's permanent principal. I question why a candidate from another school seemed a better fit for our children than Mr. Puccio, who has served a successful 12 years at Pascack Valley High School. His professionalism and his commitment not only to the school but also to the community at large is one that is held in high regard. Please reconsider finalizing a decision given the challenging and uncertainty we are facing at the moment without hearing the voices of taxpayers. I believe we owe it to our children, the community, and the faculty at Pascack Valley High School to delay this vote until all comments can be made in person. Thank you in advance for your consideration. And Ms. Molinelli?
Yeah, I would just like to open it up to the public at large to be able to make a comment on the specific agenda items that are in our agenda tonight. Is there anyone who'd like to speak? So just, we need your name and the town that you live in.
Yeah, my name's John Greco. I live in Rivervale, New Jersey. Well, obviously. I'm a senior at Pascack Valley High School. Mr. Puccio is the face of Pascack Valley. He embodies what our community and student body strives to be. How someone cannot see him as the perfect fit to continue leading us is beyond fathomable. My 4 years at Pascack Valley have been close to perfection, and I have Mr. Puccio to thank. There's no one else in the school or a possible candidate who cares as much as Mr. Puccio does. He has the unique ability to know everyone's name and what is going on in their lives. He makes an extreme effort to catch up on everything going on in every student's life. This is by far something that separates Mr. Puccio from every other possible candidate. With the outbreak of COVID-19 occurring, his true support cannot be seen in the full light. We would also be making a rash decision in the center of a crisis to change leadership, which is never a good idea. Recently, we have lost Principal DeMeo and Vice Principal Scucciamari, and all of the student body has left to embody Valley Pride as Mr. Puccio. If a new candidate is elected, we have to assume Mr. Puccio could potentially be poached by other communities because of how high quality he is. This would leave the school as a shell of what it once was. I would have to question my own pride in the school while looking back. Could I even be proud to be an alumni if Mr. Puccio is not principal? In a typical situation, Mr. Puccio would have much more support than anyone known. To lose a principal, mentor, and amazing man for an unknown outside candidate is the absolute wrong decision. I will be graduating this June from Pascack Valley, and I have always pictured myself accepting my diploma and shaking hands with Mr. Puccio, not an unknown face. Without Mr. Puccio, Pascack Valley will no longer be the school everyone has come to love, respect, and honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public? Are we ready to technologically?
Putting it on now. You can turn it on.
Thank you. Your request has been recorded. You may now hang up. Thank you.
While we're checking our technology, can I confirm that both of our additional board members are still on and are able to?
I'm here.
I'm here also.
Okay, great.
It's working.
Should wait a few minutes. Hello, you're on the phone with Pascack Valley Regional Board of Education.
Hi, good afternoon.
Go ahead and make your statement.
Hi, my name is Karina Dussy, 837 Cambridge Road, Rivervale, New Jersey. As I've been watching the Board of Education meeting, I must say that I'm very disappointed with the fact that the Board of Education is even convening today in light of the pandemic. I myself moved into Rivervale in 2014 to provide my sons with a better education. I believe that Pascack Valley has done that, and Mr. Puccio has been a big part of that. I have had the pleasure of working with him through and seeing him interact with students, teachers, in sports and academics. He is very well respected by parents, by students, as you could see from the student that just spoke, from all the letters from the parents and the staff. We are going through a very difficult time in our country. These kids need stability and a familiar face. I would like the board to reconsider their decision and keep Pascack Valley a district where families want to move into, like I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll wait for additional calls. As we wait for those additional calls, I just want to remind the board that we are meeting the expectations of what the governor just announced with regards to meetings taking place. There are less than 50 people in the audience right now, and Ms. Malinelli and the board have really stressed the importance of making sure that there were multiple different opportunities for individuals to communicate their thoughts, whether in person, via written form, or, as we have a phone call right now, a phone call. Hello there, you're on the phone with the Board of Education. If you'd like to state your name and address, and then your comment.
Hi, my name is Ariana Covedo, and I would like to comment on John Puccio being the principal of Pascack Valley High School. My address is 277 Piermont Avenue. My name is Ariana Covedo, and I am a proud Pascack Valley graduate from the class of 2019. Going into Pascack Valley, I had incredibly high expectations that were set from all of the stories I heard from my older brother, who constantly raved about the outstanding teachers he had, how much fun soccer was, and the family-like community at Pascack Valley where everyone was proud to be an Indian. Frankly, I believe my brother undersold the incredible community full of spirit at Pascack Valley High School. The first year of high school is an incredibly exciting and terrifying time in the life of a young adult. While my peers played a huge role in establishing the culture at Pascack Valley, everything starts with the faculty, and there's no greater example of a leader who embodies the spirit of Pascack Valley like John Puccio. I can vividly remember my first encounter with Puccio, in which he had a great conversation with myself, and he had such a welcoming personality. After that initial conversation, I didn't expect him to remember me among all of the new faces he was getting to know that year. Therefore, a couple weeks later, when he stopped me in the hall and asked me how my year was going, and not just in a passing way, I was pleasantly surprised. Reflecting on this interaction, I know that is just how Mr. Puccio is. He was always present in the halls of Pascack Valley, checking in on students, and would show his appreciation, seeing you by letting a smile consume his face. As the years at Pascack Valley went on, I can't count the number of times I saw Mr. Puccio at girls' soccer games, theater performances, or plenty of other school events, all with kids from different walks of life sharing their varying talents. However, the lasting memory I have of Mr. Puccio is of how incredible he supported me during my junior year of high school. This was a challenging year in my life as my parents were getting divorced, and the sadness that overcame me made it difficult to find the motivation to attend school and remain positive. Throughout this time, Mr. Puccio remained a consistent beacon of positivity in my life and allowed me to feel comfortable in my school community. Even though he may not have known what was going on in my life, his conversations and acknowledgments in the hall helped me feel as though things were normal when it felt like everything was falling apart. Mr. Puccio is truly an incredible member of the Pascack Valley community and someone who is an outstanding example of what it means to be a Pascack Valley Indian. Throughout my years at Pascack Valley, my confidence in him as a member of the faculty who I could always look to for guidance and confidence is something I always deeply appreciated. In an immensely warm, loving, and supportive community, Mr. Puccio still manages to stand out as one of the best Pascack Valley has to offer, and I would be proud to see him as the principal of Pascack Valley High School. Thank you.
Thank you. No, we don't have the technology to have an operator on hand.
15-second delay, so it just, people just saw it now. That it-
Right. That's why we have to wait for a little while. So we have to wait until individuals at home have finished hearing from the individual speaking. And then there's about a 10 to 15-second delay. So we just have to be patient. It'll take a few seconds for people to dial the number, and we'll pick up when we get a call.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Good afternoon. You're on the phone with the Board of Education. If I could ask you to state your name and address, and then make your comments in a rather slow way, so that way it's clear in the auditorium here for all of us. Thank you so much.
Sure. My name is Krista Flynn. I live at 240 Cambridge Road in Hillsdale, New Jersey. And I just wanted to make a comment regarding Mr. Puccio. As a former Hillsdale Board of Education member, I am well aware of what it takes to hire a superintendent and a principal. But I feel that all of the stakeholders involved in this situation were not taken into account. I don't recall a survey being sent to parents asking them opinions. If you did, I didn't receive one. I feel it's very important to make sure everyone's opinion is heard in this situation, and I feel that it was not. I also feel that most of the Board of Education members sitting at that table do not have students that attend Pascack Valley, and if you did, you would understand the love that the students, the faculty, and parents have for Mr. Puccio. I feel that this is a great disservice to Pascack Valley not to hire him, and I hope that you would postpone your vote as to have a public forum that all of us could voice our opinions in front of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's 1 minute. Okay. Good. It's been a minute. We'll wait another few seconds to see if there's still. Callers do have to go through the welcoming message, and sometimes they may wait a little bit longer to put in the extension, so appreciate everyone's patience.
It's been about a minute since you two went through, so.
Yeah.
Eric, do you think it would be constructive to, at a high level, explain to very high level bullet points of the process? Because the public actually obviously has strong opinions, just so they understand, you know, just at a very high level. I don't want to drag it out. Just so they have some degree of comfort that this decision was taken with a lot of thought and due diligence.
Sure.
Should we close comments at this point, or no?
Board members, can I get your
I think you've given
feedback?
enough time, and I
Okay.
think the spirit is overwhelming
Yeah.
us, so, theory.
All right, move on to the next.
Yeah. And I think
Please dial your password or personal code.
I can provide that overview when we get to that item in the agenda. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, I think it's very
And
important
then
for
we
the
can have the
public to
discussion.
know the month-and-a-half process and the specifics and everything moving forward, but yes, of course. Any other additional comments from the public? Okay, we move on to policy. There are 5 agenda items, 1 through 5. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Can we just
Discussion?
see if they're still there?
When we do roll call, we'll know.
Bissinger? Yes. Mr. Blondo?
I don't believe I was here for number 2, and I did not hear that report. So I am going to vote yes.
The report's attached.
Oh, is it? I did not read it, so I'm going to vote yes for 1, 3, 4, and 5, and abstain from 2.
Mr. Fronte?
Yes.
Mr. Hollowell?
Yes.
Ms. Malinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ralph?
Yes, I'm also going to abstain on number 2.
Mr. Scher?
Yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Steinberg?
Yes, I do have one question. Number 3, I guess at some point we'll get that report. At some point we'll...
The report is linked
It was linked.
There you go, yeah.
for your review, and at some point, when we have an opportunity
Sorry, we'll come by.
to sit down and discuss this in further detail, Dr. Backenheimer will review the details of the plan.
We move on to education with 2 consent agenda items. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Ms. Bissinger? Yes. Mr. Blondo?
Yes.
Mr. Fronte?
Yes.
Mr. Hollowell?
Yes.
Ms. Malinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ralph?
Yes.
Mr. Scher?
Yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Steinberg?
Yes.
Moving on to human resources with 5 consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
No, I'd like to make a motion to table Part 2, number 2, new hire. And I just want to say that, I regret that I can't attend today's meeting because I'm currently self-quarantining due to family health issues. They're very unusual times we're facing where health restrictions are being forced upon us by the day. And under these circumstances, I strongly protest against the meeting going forward, especially in this area. It is by no measure a public meeting if the public may be precluded, either by age or physical disability, from personally attending. I believe only items necessary for the continued function of the district be voted on at this time, with all other items tabled until public access is once again established.
So, are you done, Jim? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I'm fine, I'm done.
I am going to second the motion. I want to first say that excuse me, I'm sorry, it's not time. I don't think it's time for the public, Madam President.
You can second the motion and then have discussion, right?
All right, so motion, I've made a second, but I still have a comment on the whole agenda, so you tell me when I'm allowed to talk to that.
We're voting
Now,
on the...
discussion about the motion.
Okay.
Okay, so on the entire, okay, that's all I wanted to do.
This is a discussion now about
That's
tabling.
amazing.
Yeah,
I was actually,
the discussion is specifically for the tabling of the second item
Okay.
within the consent agenda.
and it is, okay.
Right, okay, so that's first.
Yes.
So the
Okay.
discussion is on the tabling, right? Okay.
Right now.
All right, so, thank you. I was actually going to compliment the president. I went into this weekend with a tremendous amount of emails. Now, you guys saw most of them, but I probably got as many, as I'm sure you did, directed to me directly that we didn't all see. Some of the names were the same as the people that were read into the record today, and some of them weren't, okay? I do agree with the motion to delay. While I am very impressed with the activity that, under the president's leadership, the administration took to set up this remote ability for the public to speak, and the fact that we had those comments read into the record very thoroughly, I still think that it is not the same as having an auditorium filled with people like we did on some other very controversial items. I am personally, and if anyone doubts me, I'll give you my doctor's phone number, in a category that if I catch this virus, I have a higher likelihood to have a bad reaction, a bad result. Yet I felt I had to be here because I don't think comments, no disrespect to Jim or Ken, are as effective on the phone or remotely as they are in person. And the constituents that voted me into office asked me very loudly and very clearly that they wanted to be heard, okay? And to a degree they were, and I have to, again, I'll make my third compliment on that effort. But they weren't heard as thoroughly as they would be if this was completely open. And frankly, if it was open and they showed up, we would have had to limit because there would have been more than 50 people here. The other thing is, this is a 4 o'clock meeting. And even if we didn't have a pandemic in the world, a 4 o'clock meeting is not the time to have a meeting that has a controversial or very important decision to be made. We did it, I believe, I was told this, but I don't remember this, for transgender, and now again, we're doing it for the appointment of a principal. And I do believe that meetings that have decisions that have that level of public interest should be done at a time that is more convenient for the public to come. Lastly, I don't know the candidate, although I met him very briefly. I was very impressed in the 15 minutes I was allotted to meet him. I personally spoke to several parents that have children or are employees in the Emerson School District who had nothing but great things to say about our candidate. So in no way is this, my comments, a reflection on his ability to lead Pascack Valley High School. This is about my belief that this meeting should be delayed until the public can come to a meeting, speak, be heard, and then we could take a vote. And I'm done.
Are there any comments on the specific item we're discussing, which is to take number 2 out of the consent agenda, to table number 2 out of the consent agenda? Because what we'll do next is we're going to vote on whether or not we take that item out of the consent agenda moving forward.
Okay.
We're all clear on what's happening next, right?
Okay. A vote to table item number 2. Ms. Bissinger? No. Mr. Blundell?
Yes.
Mr. Fronte?
No.
Mr. Hollowell?
No.
Ms. Malinelli?
No.
Mr. Ralph?
No.
No?
No.
Mr. Scher?
No.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Steinberg?
No.
The motion did not pass.
So now we will
Okay.
get a motion for human resources to be voted on in its totality.
Yes.
Yes.
Are we open for comments at this time from board?
I think we already had a first and second motion.
We did.
Only for
We-
tabling the agenda item.
No.
not for
No, we
the-
had a first and a second
did.
for the
Oh, for
consent.
the human resources.
And then during that discussion, we had a motion for tabling, which was not successful. So now we are back into discussion for the consent portion of human resources.
And weren't you going to give?
Yes, and I'm going to give an overview of the process.
Okay.
Is now a good time?
Yes.
Yeah, so in the spirit of real transparency, it was important that I asked Eric and we discussed that he talk about the actual process of how the school district and the board supported and has voted on in the past the way that we hire principals. So could you take a minute just to explain the process
Absolutely.
that has gone through?
Yes. So thank you very much. This has been a thorough and exhaustive district-wide process for the hiring of 2 principals. The board will recall that in early January, I presented to the board the fact that we were not just going to have one principal retiring, but two principals retiring. And at that time, I shared with the board the plan that ultimately was implemented and followed through and has now come to fruition tonight. That plan included developing a profile of what a principal for Pascack Valley and Pascack Hills should look like. We did that through a survey that was issued to all parents, Board of Education members, students, faculty, and staff throughout the entire district. We culled that data and that information, and we put it together in a way that the various interviewing committees and the board could review as we moved forward in the process. I'll come back to the survey in a few minutes. We announced the principal position openings. We did that through emails to various associations. We advertised in a couple of newspapers, online, through social media, because the discussion that the board and I had was that we wanted to make sure that we were hiring the best two principals that we could find for Pascack Valley and Pascack Hills High Schools. We collected resumes and applications, and I'm going to pull up the specific data on the number of applications right now. We had 97 applications, 68 of whom were qualified for the position on paper. And after a thorough paper screening in the beginning of February by myself and two other administrators to look at those qualifications, we arrived at 13 candidates who I would be conducting an initial interview with to make sure that they were qualified enough and appropriate individuals who I believe that the interviewing committee would find to be valuable members of this process. In the week of February 3rd, those initial interviews took place, and I arrived at, just looking at the details here, I arrived at 8 individuals that were passed along to that committee, of which included, and I think it's important to note, a wide variety demographically of individuals. And the board has access to those individuals to ensure that we did seek out a diverse field of candidates. I had solicited interview committee members for the first round committee. That interviewing committee consisted of district-wide 6 staff members, 2 parents, and 2 students. Students, at the request of our building administration, were selected to be representatives for the students. Our parents were selected by the PFO and PFA. And then our staff members, I'm happy to say that all 6 staff members that stepped up and said that they wanted to be a part of this process were part of this process and served on the interviewing committee. And finally, there were 3 board members that expressed interest in serving on this committee. We had agreed that we were going to have 2 serve, and 2 out of those 3 were available during the times of the interviews and could be in attendance. That was the first round committee. We formed consistent interview questions where we had the same questions for each of those 8 candidates, and they were all addressing the topics of what came out of the survey, primarily understanding the community and goals, academic leadership experience, actions to build relationships within a building, and innovative thinking and acting. We conducted those interviews over the course of 3 days, 2 on one day, and 3 on the following 2 days. They were each about 45 minutes in length, and there was an opportunity for the members of the committee to debrief. After each individual was interviewed, those interviewing members had the opportunity to go onto a secured Google form where they were able to offer their opinions and feedback to me on what they thought the strengths and perhaps maybe some of the concerns they had about the interviewing candidates. At the conclusion of all 8 interviews, I then asked those same committee members to go and complete a second summative Google form where they were asked to put final thoughts on all 8 of the candidates after interviewing them, and then also provide their top 4 endorsements on who should move forward to the second round committee. March 2nd through the 6th, I brought together the second round committee. And that second round committee was formed by 2 supervisors of instruction, an athletic director, and the director of technology and communications. So in other words, the second round committee was made of more of the supervisory and administrative members of the district to dig in further to what the first round committee was impressed with, and then also address specifically some of the concerns or additional questions that the first round committee had of each of the 4 remaining candidates. There were individual questions asked, different individual questions asked of each of the members that were being interviewed, because there were very specific things that impressed us and also aspects where we needed to learn more information about each of those candidates. And the board has been able to see what those questions were. Again, those members of the second round interviewing committee were able to provide feedback through a Google form that I was able to review, and the board has access to some of the scaling score summaries that I acquired from those committee members. After completing those 4 interviews, the next day I met with each of the individuals that were on the committee, and they provided the feedback to me on who should move forward to a final interview with myself and Dr. Backenheimer. There were 2 individuals that were recommended for that. So there were 2 individuals remaining in that process at that time. Dr. Backenheimer and I met with those 2 individuals during the week of March 9th. We had lengthy final interviews, and we took a look at the community, faculty, and student surveys. We took a look at the feedback that was provided by the first round committee, specifically for the 2 remaining candidates. And we took a look at the feedback from the second round committee, their specific comments and feedback. We interviewed both individuals. We had lengthy conversations. And I felt comfortable in consultation with Dr. Backenheimer, based on his feedback, on who I believed should be the appropriate principal for each building. I met this past Monday with the Board of Education in an executive session to discuss the findings of the interviewing committees and what my final recommendation was going to be. I reminded the board of the process and provided them with an opportunity to provide me with some feedback. Knowing full well that the responsibility of the superintendent is to collect feedback and thoughts from various constituents and stakeholders, I know that it's the superintendent's responsibility to make the final recommendations for all employment matters. And that's what I'm doing this evening. I'm presenting to the Board of Education my recommendation for who the next principal of Pascack Valley and Pascack Hills should be. And I'll share with you briefly the rationale for those decisions. Now, this is not to say that any individual, either internal or external, would not make for a qualified and good principal. But it was my charge to make sure that I'm providing the recommendation to the board on who I believe will be the strongest, most effective, most productive school principal for both Valley and Hills for the years to come. And I feel confident that I've done that. Mr. Wieland was a former officer in the Coast Guard, math teacher at Pascack Valley, and is currently the assistant principal at Pascack Hills High School. He has ideas for change and will make changes at Pascack Hills. He will be the Tim Wieland principal at Pascack Hills. He has worked very well under the current principal of Pascack Hills. He has been mentored well, yet he also has his own ideas and will make incremental changes as they become necessary. He is a hands-on individual, well-informed on what's happening in the classrooms and the building, and is an expert in areas of curriculum and instruction and assessment. As assistant principal, he has gone into classrooms and has taught for a long-term period of time, and has also instructed students during the Pascack period as well. He is strong in all areas and relationships with all constituents, and he is an intelligent, informed individual who has excellent managerial and leadership skills. He's a highly effective communicator, he's reflective, he takes ownership, is approachable, warm, caring, and authentic. He will be an excellent principal at Pascack Hills. My recommendation for Pascack Valley is Brian Hutchinson. Brian Hutchinson was a teacher in Teach for America and used his knowledge, his conversational knowledge of Spanish to work with students in a bilingual school in California. That's how he began his future in teaching. He became a history teacher, social studies teacher in Dumont, and then also became an assistant principal in Glen Rock. And finally now, most recently, for the last 7 years, he has been a successful principal in the Emerson Junior Senior High School. He is an experienced principal. He is focused on utilizing data to drive his decision-making, and is also a compassionate individual who recognizes the strengths and challenges that each and every student in his building experiences. He has high standards for practice. He is process-oriented, and he values systematic approaches, yet understands the importance of incremental change. He has been a leader throughout Bergen County, specifically in the Principals and Supervisors Association, to get a number of school districts together to collaborate on what effective assessments and instructional techniques we as school professionals should continue to pursue. And finally, he makes a point of building relationships with students, not only academically focused, but also athletically and co-curricularly. Brian Hutchinson is going to be an excellent principal for Pascack Valley High School. And I hope the board is satisfied with this overview of the process that we went through, and for my summarization of the two candidates that I am recommending for your approval. Thank you.
No further comments?
Discussion?
No further discussion?
I'd like to say a few things.
Sure.
Okay, first of all, as a parent in the district, I'm well aware of the positive impact the current principal is having on my daughter and her classmates. As a high school teacher for over 25 years, I would be negligent not to recognize my fellow professionals who have forcefully and eloquently expressed their praise for the current principal. As a certified administrator, I have serious questions regarding the process by which we reached this recommendation. To date, I have not seen a scored rubric or substantial measurable data which confirms the actions we are proposing. Eric, what you said before, you said that it went linear and it went down to 4 candidates. When it went down to 4 candidates, there was a committee that did the numbers on that. And the numbers were very slight differences between each one. When they went to 2 candidates, only after that did you say that you look back at those surveys. And I have strong questions about that. Look, I'll go on further. When I ran for the Board of Education, I ran under the idea of transparency and a receptiveness to this community. In my opinion, the community has spoken loudly tonight on this issue. Our goal is the same as most of those expressed in emails, in phone calls, in the Google forms. It is this: what is in the best interest of the students at PV? I believe, and evidently I'm not a lone voice in this, I believe a positive climate which fosters educational growth is far more important than any unknown benefits we might gain from this change. I do not know what we'll get. That is an unknown. I mean, I'm sure the candidate is qualified and everything else, but I know what we have, and the students and parents and teachers well know what they will lose. We will lose more than just a principal. we will lose the spirit of unity within this community. In the best interests of this academic institution and its students, I would not vote to approve the appointment of the new principal of Pascack Valley.
Is there any other discussion, comments before we move for a vote?
Okay. Ms. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Blondo?
Yes on all except number 2. Number 2, I vote no. As I mentioned before, it's not on the individual, it's on the process. Not the process, but the timing, let's put it that way.
Okay. Mr. Fronte?
Yes.
Mr. Hollowell?
Yes.
Mr. Ralph?
Yes.
Mr. Scher?
Yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes on all except 2.
Mr. Steinberg?
Yes.
Ms. Molinelli?
Yes.
Sorry.
Moving on to finance, we have 3 consent agenda items. May I have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I just have a question on number 4. It just says, bills upon presentation of properly approved vouchers. How do you mean by properly approved?
What's going on right now is this is basically the same motion that we put in every summer.
Right, okay.
So that because we can't meet due to the emergency that we've got going on, we need to still keep paying the bills as usual so our vendors get paid.
Okay,
So
so,
as soon as we have a meeting, we will come to you with the bill list the same way that we always do, and you will get to see them and approve them at that point.
okay. So I guess the question, I guess the other follow-up question, everything else, is that initially Eric stated that we were told by the Bergen County to keep the board meetings going so that work keeps going and everything else. Is that changing, or is that possibly in flux?
Yes, I can speak to that. There has been guidance that has been coming out today suggesting that we may be able to hold virtual board meetings in the future. That's not necessarily definite. I've not received definitive word from the Bergen County Department of Education, but my understanding is that there is going to be some latitude there for boards of education. But until we have something definitive, I think it was a very smart move by Ms. Baxley to put this resolution in the agenda so that we can continue to pay our bills and make payroll.
Right. So I guess, does that mean other things that we have to meet on and agree on is going to get put on hiatus, like other staff? Because we're getting to that point where we know people are retiring. Are we going to be able to move forward to start doing that work to get staff? Because we have to prepare that, think that, September, we need to have full staffing.
Right. There are no staffing decisions that are just on the horizon right now for doing final approvals. It's my hope that we get that guidance from Bergen County in the coming days, hopefully the next week, maybe 2, where we can where we can develop specific dates on when the board can meet. But our primary concern right now is to make sure that our bills are being paid in a timely fashion and that we can pay our employees.
Okay, thank you.
Is the board office closed as well?
All the buildings right now are open. Today, there was major cleaning taking place at Pascack Hills and Pascack Valley again. The custodial staff has been fantastic. They have been cleaning, and so after the students left on Friday and the staff left, they are cleaning. So we had some essential staff members in the buildings today. There were a few administrators in the buildings, custodians. My central office was partially staffed to allow the business of the district to move forward and to also prepare for this meeting, put these resolutions on. But we expect tomorrow to have a very skeleton crew of individuals in. So there will be a custodian available in each of the buildings. There will be a minor administrative presence, and the same goes for central office. We're encouraging individuals to stay home.
They have all been fitted with laptops. They've taken their files home with them. They will be doing everything that they can from their home offices so that we can keep doing. When we have to cut checks, they will come into the office and do what they need to do to get that process finished.
And I was also going to offer an opportunity for the board, if you would like to hear from Dr. Backenheimer, provide you with a little bit of a one-day synopsis of what's been taking place on the virtual learning front for our students. So we can do that under new business, perhaps. But if you'd like to, let me know, and I know Dr. Backenheimer would be willing to get up and speak to the board about that.
I would like to amend my original comment that there were 3 consent agenda items. There are actually 4 consent agenda items. Any additional comments?
Ms. Bissinger? Yes. Mr. Blundo?
We're on finance, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Bronte?
Yes.
Mr. Hollowell?
Yes.
Ms. Malinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ralph?
Yes.
Mr. Scher?
Yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Steinberg?
Yes.
Moving on to old business. Is there any old business?
I just wanted to ask about the meals for kids who get reduced and free lunches. I have.
Ms. Baxley, you want to talk to that?
Yeah, I have arranged with Pomptonian. They are working out of the Westwood High School cafeteria for several districts, preparing the lunches for anyone in our district that have free and reduced lunch. We have a custodian that's going over to Westwood and picking that up every day. That custodian is delivering the meals to each of our two high schools, Valley and to Hills, and we have reached out to the parents. They are coming to the school to pick the lunches up. Some parents have opted not to participate, but many parents are participating, and so we intend to continue that process for as long as we need to. Okay, thank you.
Any additional old business? Okay, let's move on to new business. Dr. Backenheimer, can you share with us how virtual learning is going so far?
Sure, absolutely. So good evening, everyone. I know as we've heard from lots and lots of people, we are in unprecedented times when it comes to education in New Jersey. If you had asked me 2.5 weeks ago what the probability was of us having to do another virtual day sometime in the near future, I would have laughed and said, well, the state made their decision on that with our snow days years ago. Lo and behold, 2 weeks ago Friday, the state put a memo into effect allowing schools to be approved by county, and if closed by departments of health or other bodies, could implement virtual days to count for a 180-day time. So as soon as that memo dropped, quickly our administrative team sprang into action, and Dr. Gunderson submitted our plan the next day, and we got approval from our county superintendent. With that, we then started working with our staff to advise them of what that plan would look like. Our supervisors, our administrators, our teachers started assembling. Fortunately for us, we've been using Canvas, which is our learning management system, for many years, and then utilizing a lot of the lessons we've learned from those 4 times of virtual days we've experimented with. We learned hopefully what to do and what not to do when it came to virtual instruction. So we launched our first virtual day today. I kind of hoped we would have had a little more prep time as far as getting students ready and expectations, but like the rest of the state, we started today and we really didn't have much choice in the matter. As far as progress goes, our instructions to our students were to really, and our teachers were to follow 3 basic premises: the idea of simplicity, flexibility, and timeliness. And so with those ideas, we wanted to not inundate our students with a ton of work for the sake of work, as perhaps might have been done on some previous days, but instead continuation of existing assignments in their classes, reinforcing of existing concepts, and a focus on engagement. We didn't want them sitting at home completing worksheets or simply watching videos, but we're looking to use our technology that we have for both video conferencing, discussions, things along those lines, to interact with their peers and or their teachers. We are not running classes live. We felt that, again, that didn't feed into the flexibility part as much as instructionally we'd like to. This is not the time for anything for experimentation in that regard. Instead, in the area of flexibility, we are running a half-day schedule every day from 8 a.m. to noon, where students are expected to log into Canvas. Teachers are available via video conferencing or email during the times their classes would normally meet if students have questions or require clarification. And then teachers are available from noon until the end of the school day as a follow-up if students wish to email or reach out to teachers and other communication measures. By all the feedback I received today, day 1 went off pretty well. A few minor pieces. We heard from 1 or 2 people who had a small connectivity issue, which our outstanding tech staff cleaned up very quickly. Especially want to thank Mr. Zeller and his entire technology staff, who really throughout this entire process has been working overtime to make sure that our district was was ready, that our students were ready, and that our district was ready to really implement this day, and that it really went off without a hitch. Moving forward, I anticipate as students settle into what is going to be their new normal for a little while, we're going to continue to have interaction between faculty and students. Administrators and supervisors are monitoring instruction, and we're doing what we need to make sure we're accountable for both our attendance and all that we need to meet the 180 requirement from the state. I'll answer any questions if you have at this time.
Just a quick question. So if someone has a problem with their computer while they're online learning, they come to the school, someone will be here to fix it for them, or?
So right now, the students have been advised that if they have a problem via email, that there's 2 email addresses, one for Hills and one for Valley, that they normally use if there's a tech problem. If it's something that can be done remotely, our technicians do have the availability to go in remotely with permission into their system, which is something they can do. And if it's a bit more complicated than that, the tech staff will walk them through what needs to be done next. But yes, we do have live tech help available for them once they submit to that email address.
So this is a huge shift in teaching for teachers. What kind of support's available if a teacher's trying to make this work and they've been teaching a certain way for 20 years? Like, I know we have a skeleton staff, but who do they reach out to if they need support or ideas or a way to get it done?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I know that fortunately, as we've said, as a district, this isn't our first rodeo, but I also don't want to negate the fact that, yeah, this is a challenge for all teachers, regardless of what district they're in. So what we started with our teachers, we're trying to keep it simple from the perspective of we don't want them bringing in new technologies or new tools that their students may not have seen before. We're trying to keep to existing tools, certainly examples, other Google Suite or things in Canvas they've been using a while. We've been talking to the teachers, and we shared with them as part of our initial plan rollout reminders about what makes good online education. The idea of video presence and just presence in their courses, the idea that we're looking for engagement between and among students and with their teachers, teacher quick availability in response to their questions, and the idea of not trying to do too much in a period of time, but the idea of doing a lot with a little. And so with that, we do have a lot of support. Before we braked with the shutdown, we offered classes for teachers in both using Canvas and our video conferencing tools, and our supervisors made it a point of reaching out to every teacher face-to-face individually before we dismissed to make sure that they were at least well prepared to launch this week. And all of our supervisors are keeping in touch with their teachers via email, via text, via phone calls. I've been in touch with my supervisors today, and they said they've been in touch with their staff, and they know how to reach out to either them or me if they need assistance throughout.
Right, thanks.
It's a quick question. The college process, just curious, you know, how's that going to work? Obviously, kids, you know, need
I didn't hear the question.
just the college process. I want to know how the guidance department's going to be operating.
So the question about the college process. So right now, Dr.
Jim, did you
Strunzis
hear the question? I'm not sure you did.
No, I'm hearing it now, but go ahead. The college process and what's happening,
I'll
right?
repeat the question. Wants to know about the college process right now with students. So right now, Dr. Strunzis and his counselors, they had several meetings before the end of last week talking about what the role of the counselor was going to be in the process, and they include continuing conferences where possible through video conferencing, meeting with scheduling conferences. If counselors need to meet with especially seniors who are applying, who may need some guidance, counselors are available there to video conference as well. Certainly, we know that most college campuses have canceled class or moved to an online instruction, especially those of you who have children who are in college know that certainly far well than I do. They're staying on top of it as best they can, and I know that they're keeping tabs on it, and they're available for support for both college planning and also from the social emotional side. Our counselors have said that if there are any concerns with anxiety related to what's going on, or students who just want to consult with their counselors, they are available the same way our teachers are, through video conferencing, email, et cetera, as well as our wellness counselors and other professionals in school.
This probably goes without saying, but we'll get a full report to be able to do a postmortem when this is done to find out how the wellness piece of it worked, and, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, I think they said, so it'll be interesting to see when it's all over.
Absolutely. We have, as I mentioned, we have an incredibly detailed plan. It reads about 16 pages of immense amount of details that we're certainly following through in all aspects of school operations, from the instructional side to operations and everything in between. Certainly our plan is right now we are documenting all parts of things we're doing, from, as I mentioned, attendance, student work, reach outs, contact for counselors, contact for child study teams, et cetera. And so hopefully when this ends sooner rather than later, it would be my pleasure to share that data with the board and lessons that we learned. And hopefully, if there's a silver lining to all this, this may mean that going forward from the state, perhaps now virtual days are something we can use for snow days and other such emergencies like this, especially since most schools in the state are now getting a crash course in how online education works.
Yeah, it seems that AP testing may be online.
That I haven't heard yet. The latest information I saw from the College Board is that they are carefully monitoring the situation and that they will let students know as soon as they have a decision made. I believe, like everyone else, they're taking this all week by week, and I believe it's probably a little premature for what the next steps will be, but certainly as soon as we're aware of that, we're going to make that aware to our students and everyone who's affected by this. Certainly the whole country, since they certainly take College Board tests, will be following this very closely.
They canceled SATs last week.
Yeah, this is the advantage of being at home. I'm looking at the screen right now. The AP program is finalizing a streamlined AP exam options, and they're going to let everybody know by March 20th what their decision is and the details of it.
Yeah, and I believe the same will certainly be true for any SAT or ACT testing that'll be involved, and we'll certainly await state's decision about, for example, what the NJSLA testing will look like. There's lots of information out there that I guess we'll deal with this week, and we'll get to that, I guess, as the information comes, but we'll certainly be monitoring it very closely and keep everyone informed.
Additional comments?
I just have a question. I mean, are we making the assumption right now that school is going to be closed through spring break, and that if things hopefully level out and go well, that sometime after spring break coming back, or are we just on a indefinite unknown right now? Because I know things still are changing massively, but,
Officially today, the governor closed schools beginning Wednesday for a period of 2 weeks. So although we believed initially that we would be closed starting today for 2 weeks, that's going to be extended a little bit due to the governor's executive order. We have received word that we should prepare for a longer period of time where students are learning from home. We don't have the answers to that yet. I'm not sure if anybody has the answers to that, but we are prepared and putting things in the works, in the process, to make sure that we are able to continue to educate students. And before Dr. Backenheimer goes and takes a seat, I just want to thank Dr. Backenheimer, his supervisors, our administrators, all of our teachers, child study team members, school counselors, office staff, and custodians for really stepping up in a really, really big way, especially this past week, to be flexible, to be adaptive, and be ready to implement online learning. We've done an exceptional job in preparing students for this, and a lot of that credit goes to our teachers, our supervisors, and our administrative team in making that happen. So I want to thank you for that. And anyone who thinks that educators or people that are involved in schools have the next several weeks off, you are mistaken. They are working, I would argue, harder than ever, because this is a completely new experience for them. We've been on the cutting edge and the leading front with virtual learning, but we've done it one day at a time over the course of 6 years. This is a lot different. So I think we're going to have positive experiences moving forward. I'm sure we're going to adapt as needed, but I want to thank everyone involved in this planning process. So thank you.
Yep, thank you. And if I could just add one additional comment, again, I want to thank, I know certainly our teachers and our administrators and all professionals pivoted very quickly on this and acting again with the best interests of students in mind, learning from past lessons. I just ask in general that everyone, our parents, our students, our board, even ourselves, are patient with the process. This is, as we've heard time and time again, an unprecedented time, and certainly we're doing our best in a trying situation. I think our best is pretty darn good. But again, we just ask that everyone, if you have problems or questions as this online learning evolves, start with our regular chain of command, which is reach out to the teacher, reach out to our supervisors, reach out to our administrators, and we'll be here to help, and we should do whatever we can to make it right. So thank you.
I'd like to thank Paul and the technology team for making this evening possible with their phones and emails and everything else. I think they did a terrific job. Thank you.
I would like to echo that, because on top of online learning, Paul also, I guess Saturday and Sunday, figured out a way to be able to help be more community-oriented, to get feedback via technology. So, yeah, great. That was pretty amazing, so.
Well done. Mr. Pico behind the camera, Mr. Sherman behind the live streaming operation, Mr. Hagopian taking care of just about everything else, all under the leadership of Mr. Zeller, so I concur.
Any additional comments from the public?
Eric, didn't you have one?
Yes, I have some statements I need to read, and then we will open it up to the phones.
Okay.
But is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak?
Seeing none?
This comment is from Teresa Gorman, 3 Drake Drive in Hillsdale. Can you please explain contingency planning for AP exams this year, given the CDC guidance to avoid gatherings of 50 or more? How will this impact AP testing? What backup plans for the students are being considered? I believe, Dr. Backenheimer, you addressed that. No, I think
No, you did.
I think you spoke to it. Just wanted to make sure there weren't any other board members that had additional questions.
Yeah, I mentioned that by March 20th, we get more information on the AP.
Perfect. Thank you. Second comment comes from Bill Birdie at 22 Sherwood Drive in Hillsdale. Hi, I know that remote teaching is new and just getting started. It seems initially to be more like home assignments with teacher office hours. We have the technology for actual virtual live classes with teachers teaching. Are we going to move to that soon? I would be concerned if parents and/or students are expected to teach and learn high school material, including honors material, on their own. Oh, you're already at the podium. Well done, Dr. Backenheimer. You anticipated that.
Yes,
well done.
Absolutely. Well, certainly, I hear this person's concern, and all things being equal, that would be certainly preferred, I think. And when we look at, say, college classes or other places that do virtual learning that's not in a crisis situation, I think that certainly is a good way to go. Right now, we are on day 1. We've just finished day 1 of this, and being that literally our teachers pivoted on this very quickly with not a lot of warning, and understanding that if we suddenly were to say everyone, for example, had to show up for an 8 o'clock class, we have different people in different levels of health. We have different people who maybe not be in their regular homes. We have people who are dealing with some challenging situations, as we all can attest to. We felt that it wasn't prudent at this point in time to require students to log in live for instruction at this point in time, but instead to have teachers available during the regular periods and to have students work together with teacher guidance along the way. That doesn't mean that at some point in the future we might be able to pivot to that, depending upon the length of how long this goes and certainly time to prepare. But at least for right now, our plan is to continue as is. We feel, again, it gives us the flexibility and simplicity and patience to work through this, which is a trying time for a lot of people, I think.
Thank you, Dr. So we have one more opportunity for comments from the public to be able to call in.
I have one thing about old business, and I just remembered it now or anything else. I know that to finish the technology piece with the door locks and everything else was happening on second shift. Has that been halted, or are they able to change to first shift to keep it continuing since there's no one in the building and there are less than 50 people, doing it? So, I mean, what do we think going there so we can continue the work and get that done?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I did mention that there's...
I can't hear that question, I'm sorry. Could you repeat it, Eric?
Sure. The question was about, right now we were working on getting, I think on second shift, the technology finished for security. And I was wondering, since we don't have people in classes, school now, can they go to first shift and continue working and not be on second shift?
Our Director of Facilities and Capital Improvements is overseeing that project. And one of the reasons why we are going to have a small custodial presence and administrative presence physically in the building is so that some contracting work can take place. A lot of that will be dependent upon what the contractors believe is appropriate for their employees. So all of that is in flux. If they can shift from second shift to first shift, I'm sure Mr. Donahue will be working with those contractors, not just the contractors you refer to, but other contractors that are continuing to do some work in the buildings.
Okay, thank you.
public
expensive.
section
Might be
that
more
would
expensive
allow
for a shift.
callers to be able to talk about any topic that they would like, agenda item or other.
So we had the numbers up now.
Okay.
So the light blinking, we have more.
Yeah, us too.
Oh, before?
People will just,
One of your executives chimed in when you were out of the room about support ratio.
Yeah.
Detail.
Like Stefan, Stefan is a pretty senior guy in the HR space.
I'd like to ask a question while we're waiting. About the 1776 show, is there a chance they might do that later in the year, assuming things go well?
I certainly hope that the Pascack Valley School Musical will be able to be rescheduled, just as we hope that the junior proms will be rescheduled, and a variety of other programs that students are really excited about could possibly be rescheduled. That is one of the things that our administrative team will be working on when we receive a little bit clearer information about when we can open things back up for students. There may be other logistical issues with that, but we're going to have to consider all those logistical issues, and if we can make it work, we will.
Yeah, I got some calls from parents on that one.
Yeah, it's a
They
shame
will,
that,
yeah.
that the musical and a variety of other events, the spring seasons, athletic seasons, other co-curricular activities, learning in the classroom in general, it's all up in the air with regards to when we will get back to normal.
Another one for the list that I'm sure it's on your list, but the SAT prep, which goes through the school, people have paid money. Obviously, that's canceled or until further notice, but how that's dealt with from a financial point of view when it's all said and done is something to put on your list.
Absolutely. It's a long list
I'm
of
sure.
various trips and activities that have been canceled that we need to work out the logistics for rescheduling or refunding or finding alternate plans.
Would it be possible to find like one central insurer who could take us on as a district, that they would insure deposits for athletic trips and for theater or musical trips, as opposed to buying it through a carrier, to get kind of like a bulk rate? Because I'm sure we know our numbers, how many kids do what every year.
So I've been in conversation with a variety of different superintendents last week when canceling of trips was the hot topic. This past week, the hot topic was canceling school. But when I was talking to them about canceling trips, they were all in similar positions that we were in, where individual organizations had taken out different types of travel insurance. Individuals within those trips may have had enhanced travel insurance. And really, most of those travel insurance packages that people purchased, whether it was in our district or other districts, international pandemics were not part of a covered issue for the insurance company. So I know that a couple of superintendents and I have talked about investigating the cancel for anything trip insurance. We will certainly be reviewing that topic along with a whole variety of other things that we're considering and learning about these days when our schools are closed.
Thank you.
Good question. Any callers online? Okay.
I guess the only other one question I have, are our bees on hold, or are they still coming?
The bees at Pascack Valley, I will have to inquire about what's happening with the bees. Certainly, all activities at Pascack Valley are on hold right now. The bees are supposed to be brought into Pascack Valley, I think, later in April, so stay tuned. Listen for the buzz, and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
I asked them, teachers promised. They promised to be here when there's no school.
All right, very good. May I have a motion to adjourn
So moved.
Second.
by acclamation? Thank you, everyone, for all your work and dedication. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.